Hello, everybody. Now, my name is Dr. Jesse Middleton, for those of you that I've yet to meet, and welcome to our monthly edition of our advanced webinars, and this is our July edition, and tonight we're talking about sleeping better. So if you've been on any of these calls before, you know that part of our purpose is to help people along their path to wellness, and that means helping people find out what are the blind spots when it comes to your health. What are some of the healthy habits that you can implement in order to create more health? And maybe what are some of the habits that aren't so healthy that maybe that we can do differently or minimize, or maybe sometimes even get rid of altogether. And so tonight's topic, this is actually one of our most popular ones. And we get asked these questions about sleep all the time. And it's near and dear to my heart. And I'll tell you, it's because I've had a funny relationship with sleep. So these days, and not bragging, just saying, I can actually fall asleep literally within 2 minutes of going, my head hitting the pillow. I kid you not. It drives my wife absolutely insane. And I pretty much sleep all the way through until I wake up. And I get up quite early, but I pretty much sleep all the way through, with the exception of, you know, one or two kids jumping into bed. But there's not a great deal that can be done about that. But it hasn't always been that way. So a long time ago, when I was in high school, I was in my final year and studying really hard. I failed year 11, and so really put the wind up me, and I was going hard studying because I wanted to become a chiropractor, and I didn't think I'd get the marks. So I remember my IT teacher getting up and saying, look, guys, literally, physiologically, you only need 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. So if you're sleeping any more than that, it's superfluous, it's not helping you, you need to study harder. And I took that to heart. And so I started, it was my mission to sleep 4 hours a night. Carried that through high school, carried that through university, carried that into when I took over the practice in Bathurst. And it was a couple of years into it. We'd had 3 practices at this stage, so I was, you know, traveling a lot. This one day, this Monday, super unusual for me, but I remember I was utterly exhausted. I actually went home at lunchtime and laid in bed. I thought I just needed a nap. Now, I don't think I've ever done that ever since. I don't think I ever did it before, but I went and had a nap, and I remember laying there and I started getting heart palpitations. And it really shook me. It really scared me, to be honest. And so that was a bit of what I now call a pivot point, where, you know, you have a little bit of realization that maybe you're not bulletproof anymore, or maybe you need to do something differently. And so that led to learning a whole lot more about sleep, getting a whole lot better practice at sleeping, or better sleeping practices. And it's kind of led to now. I did make a few changes, but sleep was absolutely the primary one. And so that's what I want to share with you tonight. And what's really cool about these webinars, I think, is if you've been around chiropractic for any length of time, you will know that we don't fix you. You'll know that we work with you. We work with your body's natural, innate intelligence to heal itself. And we help remove the things that are interfering with that. And because we know, you know, your body is designed to be healthy. It just requires certain ingredients. And if you do those ingredients consistently, you get a good outcome. If you don't, then maybe the outcome's not as good as you wanted to get. Well, when it comes to these webinars, a lot of the feedback that I'm getting is, you know what, I already knew that. Well, that was kind of obvious. I just didn't really connect the dots before. So the interesting thing is, definition of doctor is teacher. And so when we get on and do these webinars to educate people, sometimes I feel like it can be, you know, somewhat condescending. We're educating people. But I found out, I looked it up. Educate comes from the Latin word educe. And what that means is to draw out. You see, so we're drawing out the information you've already got. So as we go through tonight, a lot of this information, it's not rocket science. Okay, when you hear it, you probably already know it, or maybe you forgot about it, or it's going to connect a dot for you and it will just make sense. And so I think that's pretty cool. And so that's what we're doing tonight. So tonight, all about sleep. And what you're going to see is high-level physiology, so that from a practical standpoint, because the more you understand about the mechanisms of the brain and what sleep is and how it works, then you can actually start to troubleshoot yourself. And that's when it's pretty cool, because you can look at your kids and say, well, look, you need to make this change, or your spouse or yourself, and get more out of it. We're then going to go into some of the common or best practices when it comes to sleep. We're going to talk about how to pick a pillow, how to pick a mattress, and then also the common complaints we get, like thoracic outlet syndrome, restless leg syndrome. It's amazing how many people, I had 2 people today come in. I was going through their x-rays with them. Their primary complaint was neck pain, headaches, and waking them up. This one poor guy told me he was waking up 14 times a night. And so it doesn't have to be that way. There is so much that we can do. So let's dive into this, and hopefully, and apologize in advance. If you've been on these before, you'll know I'm not necessarily the best when it comes to sharing my screen. All right, I think we've got it here. Here we go, guys. All right, sleep better tonight. So let's dive into this. So on this call, which one of this is you? And guys, please, these webinars, please engage. Give me a thumbs up or something if you can see my screen, or maybe some comments. And at the end of this, we are going to circle back and get a Q&A. Maybe, thank you, Elaine. Maybe the best part about this webinar tonight is either I'll teach you how to sleep or I'll put you to sleep. But either way, we're going to be effective. So let's keep going. So like I said, best practices: thoracic outlet, restless leg, sleep posture, picking your pillow, picking a mattress. Now, if you've been on these webinars before, you will know I cannot go any further without talking about symptoms. Now, all of these things we're talking about, tossing, turning because my arm's going numb, I'm getting a neck pain, I'm getting kicking, restless leg, I can't sleep. I turn over, my hip's sore, so then I turn the other way, my arm goes numb, or now my mind is racing and I'm thinking about all the things I've got to do tomorrow, and I'm thinking that my alarm's clumbing and I've got to get up soon, and now I can't sleep even more. All of these things have something in common. They're all symptoms, all right? So what are symptoms? They're body signals. It's your body talking to you. It's telling you, hey, something's wrong. It's this innate intelligence, right? It's actually a good thing, because can you imagine if your body didn't talk to you? If you didn't know that your hand was on a hot stove, then we'd have some real problems. So it's a pretty cool system. But the thing about it is, and the body, like when it comes to symptoms, your body's telling you there's a problem, do something, right? But the thing about it is, it's the way we interpret those signals, which is what makes all the difference. And this actually comes back to our belief system. Because are you the sort of person who you get a symptom and you think, you know what, I'll just push through it. I'll just keep going. It's crazy how many people put up with things for a significant length of time. I had another guy I saw today, came in with proper neck pain, proper low back pain. And he said, yeah, I've been putting up with this for 10 years. It's been pretty bad. And I said, why? He didn't know. And that's what we do. We just get these issues and we just keep, 10, 20 years goes past, we've been putting up with it. But that's what we do sometimes. Other people, sometimes we medicate. We chemically manipulate our physiology so we feel better, all the while the problem's getting worse, right? And when it comes to sleep, you should Google it. Some of the side effects of sleep medications, particularly coming out of America, it will blow your mind. Some people, number one, when we're taking drugs to get to sleep, usually it's covering up a symptom, right? It's not the reason we can't fall asleep is not because we are deficient in some sort of drug. There's been research done, and please Google this, it'll blow your mind, where people have been had increased episodes of sleep shopping. because they take these sleeping pills and they start doing these behaviors that they've got no recollection of doing. There's been instances of people waking up in another state because they've got in their car and gone driving. They've gone through red lights, got the camera, got the ticket. It's been all sorts of things. And the thing is, when you push your sleep off for long enough, we know we're kicking the can down the road. And you've all heard how, there's a link between sleep and diabetes, or link in heart disease and all these things. And it's true. And you'll see why tonight. So that's not always the best practice. But then the alternative is being the sort of person who tries to interpret the signal and act accordingly. So we modify our behavior so that we get a better outcome. And that looks like this, simply put. You've got, and we talk about this all the time when we're talking to our patients about your recommendations. There's two potential goals you could possibly have. One, you can only go one way. Either you're going to be reactive or sit in the treatment paradigm, or you're going to be proactive and go down the wellness paradigm. And so the difference is, if we're doing treatment, we get a symptom, we treat the symptom. We take a pill, injection, something, cover it up, mask it, so that we feel better again, so we can keep doing the things we probably shouldn't be doing, allowing our body to get worse, but we just keep taking more. And then we know that over time, that's how we lose our health. The alternative, though, is the wellness paradigm, which is proactive, right? So it's about figuring out, what is this body trying to tell me? What are these symptoms trying to tell me? And making changes. So it starts with an awareness that, hey, I can actually influence this thing called health through my behaviors, through my actions, getting educated on it. That could be reading books, webinars, YouTube videos, professionals, chiropractors, naturopaths, you name it. But then more importantly, and this is the real key, acting on that advice, acting and actually implementing those habits so that over time we feel better because we are better instead of just covering it up. And that's the cool thing. So that's really what we're passionate about here. And that's why we're here tonight. So if you're on this call, I do want to congratulate you as well, because health is not a sexy topic. Sleep is definitely not a sexy topic. And the fact that you guys you're logging on 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night to spend, an hour or so learning about sleep speaks volumes as to the type of people that you are. And I know that time is our most precious resource, and I really appreciate you being on this call with me too. And I really hope that you walk away from here tonight feeling that it's been well invested, your time into being here tonight. All right, so high-level physiology, here it is. Deep inside your brain. Now, there's a lot more to it than this, but this is the guts, right? Which is what's going to help. Deep inside your brain, you've got this thing called a SCN, suprachiasmatic nucleus. This thing is stimulated by light. Okay, so it gets really active when there's any light, sun. What that then does is send a bunch of signals deep inside your brain, turn certain things on and certain things off. One of those things is when the sun comes up and that gets active, melatonin, which is what puts you to sleep, and one of the things that puts you to sleep, goes down drastically, drops off the charts. And that's how we start to wake up. We start to become alert and stimulated. And now the opposite happens when it gets dark. When the lights go out, that SCN nucleus has nothing, no activity. And so melatonin starts to pump out. Melatonin is what puts us to sleep. And then you can see here, this is very closely linked to the liver as well as to your adrenal glands, which is your cortisol. So this will make sense as we go further into it. But essentially, if you look at this from a practical standpoint, if the lights are on, that thing's getting stimulated, it's going to make it hard to go to sleep. So if you think about it, the sun goes down at 6 o'clock. If we're sitting there watching TV, getting blasted with this blue light, we're looking at our phones, and then we want to go straight to bed from watching TV, or maybe even falling asleep on the couch, which is never a good idea, we're going to have trouble, right? It's just not going to be as quality as it otherwise would, because that thing is, that SCN, that's still firing. And think about your kids on this one too. I just caught she's now 4, she turned 4 today, a little girl. I went to tuck her in the other night. She's got this toy mobile phone. It's like just buttons where you press it and it makes noises. She's sleeping with that thing. I thought, no. Anyway, next morning I see her walking down the hallway and she's got this mobile phone tucked into her pajama pants. I'm like, oh my God, like it's modeled behavior, right? But, when we get our kids grow older and older, they're starting on their iPads, on their phones, their laptops, they're in bed. And then we wonder why they wake up in the morning, they're exhausted and they're grumpy. They're not sleeping. And a lot of that's to do with the light. And there is stuff you can do, which we'll go through. So that's the key thing. Now, in conjunction with this, so light comes up, we wake up, light goes off, we turn off. There's also a thing called homeostatic pressures. Now, what that means is, and you'll know this from experience, the longer you go without sleep, the more tired you get. If you're sick, if you've had a massive day at work, if you've had a lot of physical activity, you're knackered, you're tired. This is because there's a neuropeptide called adenosine, which actually builds up in your body. And this is where the feeling of sleep kind of builds to the point of exhaustion. And when we sleep, it depletes and then it builds up again the next day. So you've got this light cycle, but then you've also got this homeostatic pressure, which is just, it's no good just leaving the lights on all the time because at some point you still have to sleep. They're the two competing factors. Now, and this is what then has significant influences on the rest of your health, think diabetes, heart disease, etc. We've got this circadian rhythm, which is called our cortisol cycle. So a lot of you on this call, you'll know cortisol is a stress hormone produced by your adrenal glands, and it makes physiological changes in your body for the fight-flight mode. So the idea being, we evolved. You were drinking over a river, tiger walks past, all of a sudden there's a threat to your life. You get these instant physiological changes. Your heart rate goes up, you start to sweat, blood pressure goes up, muscles tense. You get ready to either to fight this thing or run away to save your life. That's a large part of that is cortisol. So what you'll notice with this rhythm or this black line, this shows us levels of cortisol in your body. So check it out. Middle of the night, your cortisol levels are at their lowest point. You're relaxed, you've got nice shallow breath, you're sleeping, you're resting, you're repairing, you're regenerating. But then just before sunup, somewhere around sort of 4:30, 5 o'clock, those levels start to naturally peak. So that around 7-ish a.m. in the morning, those levels are very high. Now, if you think about this from an evolution standpoint, if you wake up in the morning, back then, obviously, you couldn't go to Coles and get your breakfast or cafe, or you didn't have a cereal in the cupboard. You had to go and hunt. So these stress levels go up to prime your body so that you're able to go and capture some food, essentially. And then throughout the day, it starts to dissipate, winds down, you start to feel relaxed, the lights go out, drops even further. And this is that cycle. Now, this cycle gets messed up if you're out of sync with your sleeping patterns, from the lights going up and you going, so the lights go out, you go to bed, lights come up, you wake up. That will knock this thing out of sync. And then you can get elevated and aberrant cortisol patterns, which starts to have flow-on effects. So let's look at what happens when we deprive ourselves of sleep. So like I just said, number one, if we're not sleeping in our natural cycle, so think shift workers. And by the way, as a side note, they've actually done studies that have shown that shift workers who work night shift, on average, lose about 10 years of their lifespan. Pretty not good. A lot of it's to do with his heart disease. So we're out of sync with our cortisol cycle. Melatonin is down-regulated, meaning it doesn't pump up, meaning it's harder to get to sleep. If you do get to sleep, it's not as deep. And insulin sensitivity gets down-regulated. Diabetes, right? It starts to increase those chances. Then we add into that this unnatural lighting. this was the link between the SCN, adrenals, and your liver. Whoop. Leptin goes down. Now, leptin is a hormone that suppresses your appetite. So we start to crave usually sugary foods, right? At home, start to raid the cupboards, go for a chocolate or something. Ghrelin goes up, and this is what actually makes us hungry. You got elevated cortisol. Again, you crave sugar. And then you put that together with you downgraded the insulin sensitivity. You've now got increased insulin pumping out. It's not healthy. Heart disease, diabetes, it even starts to store belly fat. That's basically what this does. And so a lot of the time, people are telling me, hey, I'm eating all the right foods, I'm exercising, I just can't lose this weight. A lot of the time, we do need to look at our sleep cycle because that has a direct influence on our hormones. Okay, so all of this stuff is pretty far-reaching, but it's important to get the bigger picture. So what can we do? What are the best practices? I'll tell you, it's pretty obvious. We use the circadian rhythm as a guide, right? Meaning we wake up when the sun comes up, we go to bed when the sun goes down. Not always practical, I know. This is where it comes in as a guide. So I'll tell you these days, and this is just personally, I know we're all different, but I noticed that the circadian rhythm starts to kick up around about 4 a.m. That's when our cortisol starts to pick up. And if you've been up that early before, you might even find that your thinking is more clear. So I'll get up around 4:30 in the morning. And I just find that it's extremely easy to have clear thoughts, to think, and if I'm going to study, if I'm going to have to solve some problem, that's when it's going to happen. And I'm in bed by 9 o'clock, flat out. Now, it's only really with the exception of these things, webinars and whatnot, when there's devices going on, or it goes a bit past that, because otherwise there's basically no devices. It's that blue light which really affects that SCN. We want to sleep on average for 7 to 9 hours for an adult. Now, this is 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. This is not laying in bed for 7 to 9 hours, waking up 14 times because we've got a headache or our neck's sore. That's having 14 cat naps. We want quality, solid sleep. And there's some great devices out there like a smartwatch or Fitbit, which can actually measure this for you. In fact, you can even get apps on your phone where you stick the phone under your pillow and that can measure it. We want the room dark, quiet, and comfortable. Obviously, dark, pitch black. So there's no stimulation for that SCN. Think of your children here too. If you've got young kids and they've got a nightlight, it's not good. And I know what it's like when your kids want a nightlight. I get it. I've got 3, but it's not healthy for them. So it's kind of like a pacifier. You give it to them once and they want it forever. E-fast. So what we're talking here is for good at least an hour, if not 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, no electronic devices. That's your phone, that's your laptop, TV, etc. Now, I know that everybody's going to do just that and turn their devices off 2 to 3 hours before bed. But for those of you who have a friend who won't do that, what you can do, which will help, is there's a website called baxterblue.com, maybe.au. Anyway, they sell these glasses which filter out blue light. So it reduces the impact that it's going to have, right? Which means that you can actually sleep better. So this is also great for kids. If you've got a kid who just wants to play games and on Xbox, whatever, make them wear these glasses. They've like a yellow tint, filters the blue light. They're great. The other thing you can do is on your mobile phone, on Androids and Apples, if you go to your settings, there's a bedtime mode where you can it'll actually turn the blue light off. So that thing goes into black and white. You can even set it so it doesn't give you any notifications. Someone rings or messages or whatever, you can block all that. Just strongly recommend. But at a minimum, use the blue light filter on your phone to turn that off so that it's not hitting that SCN nucleus. Reduce alcohol, obviously reduce caffeine. Now, I get asked about alcohol a bit because obviously from someone told me if you drink alcohol, it knocks you out, you go to sleep. Well, it's true. It does knock you out. But the quality of sleep you're going to get is far inferior to the quality of sleep you'll get if you haven't had any alcohol that night. Same with sugar. Just test it. Go to bed, no chocolate, no sugar, no alcohol. You're absolutely going to have a better night's sleep. And then we're talking to household culture. So what I'm talking about here is, what is the environment like in your house? And from a team or a family perspective, are people quietly reading books? Are they, having quiet conversations? Or are we screaming at each other, chasing kids down the hallway? There's dogs running around, and it's just too much noise, excitement, and everything else. Obviously, that's going to play a factor in all this. So, to sum it up, drink early, i.e., not alcohol, but drink your water. Stop around 7 or 8 o'clock, so you're not having to get up through the night to pee. Have better sleep. Have more sex is basically what we're saying. That will put you to sleep and make life a whole lot better. So these are the best practices. Now, next thing we want to talk about is sleep posture. And for a lot of people, this is the big one. It's very simple. The principle is very simple, and we're going to walk through it right now. Key thing: your spine needs to be straight in every so from front on, you want to be straight, and you don't want to be rotating. You don't want to be bending one way or the other. Let me show you what that means. So this person, obviously they're dipping through their mattress and their hips are lower than their shoulders, and you're getting this arch, or vice versa. The shoulders are lower than the hips, no good. We want it flat like this, okay? Now, some of this has to do with the way you lay there. Some of it has to do with your mattress. We're going to talk about both. From when you're on your back, you do not want your head jacked up. This is one for the mums out there. If one of the common things we see in practice is mums will come in with so I'm talking new mums who are still breastfeeding, or even bottle feeding, because our heads are down like this, baby falls asleep, and so we replace the bottle with a phone, we end up looking down like this, and we're doing that for like 18 hours a day. These women, and you'll see, we start to get a hump at the base of our neck. Common problem: neck pain, headaches, and carpal tunnel or thoracic outlet syndromes. We start to get pins and needles down the arm. Then, because our head's always forward, this seems to be the posture that a lot of mums are going to want to sleep in, because that's what they've been doing through the day, and it just feels more comfortable. When they wake up, their arms are numb. This is the problem, okay? Your head's jacked up and it's cutting off those nerves. So we want to be flat, okay? So it does mean a pillow support, but not a big one. And we don't want to be so that our head's tipping backwards either. All right. So keeping the spine straight. So practically speaking, what does that look like? Well, what do we got here? Pillow. We might get into that in a moment. Practically speaking, we've got to use a bunch of pillows. So let's talk about the pillow first. You want a pillow that is the same width as your shoulder, less how much your shoulder sinks into the mattress if you sleep on your side, okay? Because obviously you want your spine straight. Now, it doesn't really matter if it's feather, if it's down, or if it's foam. What matters is that it's the right size for you. And now, you would have seen we've got these complete sleepers in the practice. And the reason we've got it, if you look carefully, they've got these inserts, meaning they're a $100 pillow. And I hear it all the time. I've spent $500 in pillows. All these pillows are $100, and I just want to get one that's right for me. So the reason we sell these, the reason I like them, is because, yes, even though they're expensive, you can adjust them so that you've got a much better chance of getting it right for you. And we can help you do that. But in any event, it doesn't really matter if you get one of these, or if you just get a really thin down pillow that's your favorite pillow, and you stack up some towels underneath it so it's the right height, it will give you the same effect. It's the height. It's got to be the right width that's going to make all the difference, all right? So if you lay on your side, have your partner look at you and make sure that your spine is straight from behind. Alternatively, if you're on your back, same concept. You want to make sure that the arch in your neck is getting supported, and that this is where contour pillows are great, because your head can sort of fall into the back there, but the arch of your neck is still supported. Doesn't have to be contoured, but they are good for that. So that's it. It's pretty basic. Just stay straight. Then when it comes to picking a mattress, I did send a video out to everyone in the email, and I'm pretty sure we did that. But basically, if you've heard me speak, I'm not a fan of the foam mattresses just because their density is affected by the temperature, meaning the hotter you get, the softer it gets. So depending on the season or depending on what you're doing or how hot you are, it's going to influence the support it gives you. I am a fan of pocket spring mattresses or Bernal spring mattresses. But what's great about them is you can buy them zoned, meaning you can get, for example, the middle third denser than the outer 2/3. Because from memory, about 70% of the weight you're transferring through the mattress is going through your pelvis. And so if you've got firmer zone around the pelvis, you're not going to sink into it relative to your shoulders or vice versa. So that's kind of cool. And that's where this ties in, because you can see this person sinking in properly and allowing their spine to stay straight. Now, the next question I get is, I sleep on my side, the pillow's the right height, but I like to sleep like this. Or I end up like a pretzel. In fact, a lady told me this afternoon she sleeps with the pillow on her head. I said, well, that's obviously in the wrong position. So if we swap that around, that will help. But we all do weird things. So my advice to you is this. If you're on your side, have a pillow you can, and your arms go rogue, have a pillow you can cuddle. Okay, that just keeps them out of the way. The next thing you want to do is bend your top knee, put a pillow under your top knee. That's the idea of that, is it stops your hips from rotating. So your top knee is not dragging that hip forward, which can start to contribute to hip pain. That's number one. Now, if you're on your back and you have low back problems, what you want to do is put a pillow, probably 2 or 3 pillows even, under your knees so that your knees are bent. And what that's going to do is take the pressure off your sciatic nerve, which comes out of your low back, takes the pressure off your low back, flattens it out. If you've got a sore back while you're sleeping there, that usually makes a pretty big difference. So they're just some tips for if you're sleeping in pain. So that's pillows and mattresses. Like I said, we did send a video out recently which really did a deep dive on both those topics. If you didn't get it, just put in the comments, and if you want it, we'll make sure we send you the link so you've got that and you can have a good look. So next, let's talk about some of these symptoms. So the 2 main ones we get is Thoracic Outlet Syndrome, which is when we're getting basically pain from the neck all the way down the arm into the fingers. Sucks. Wake up, our arms are numb or hurting. Sometimes it takes a bit to even get them moving. Sometimes it's both of them. And then we've also got restless leg, which is you cannot help but shake that leg. It hurts if you don't do it. And so what that can translate into is people getting up in the middle of the night. They just got to keep walking around the house. They can't sit still because they get this restless leg. They go to bed, they're going to disturb their partner, the leg's going to drive them nuts. These 2 things have the potential to really damage the quality of someone's life. So it's good that we can get on top of these if this is you or somebody you know. All right, so let's have a look at this. This should be familiar for everyone on this call. If you're a patient of ours, this is a picture of your nervous system from side on. And what it shows is the relationship between the spine, the nerves, and the rest of our body. So as you know, brain controls everything, sends a signal down the spinal cord, out a spinal nerve to a thing, and tells that thing what to do. Could be tells a muscle to move, tells your organ to, or your heart to beat, tells things to do stuff. Now imagine if someone came along and cut the nerves that went to your heart. What do you think would happen? It's not going to be happy at the very least. Fortunately, that's not what happens. You don't just cut those nerves. But what would happen if that particular area of your spine was putting pressure on those nerves? Again, it's going to disrupt the flow of information. Wherever that information is going, it's not going to get all the information. It's not going to function fully. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're going through these, because is what it relates to. Now, what we do in our office is we look for a thing called a subluxation, which is an area of the spine which is putting pressure on those nerves, causing a problem. Now, this is relevant. Just bear with me here. So subluxation is a bone out of line. Now, what will happen when that bone goes out of line is the ligaments that wrap the joint, keep it stable, they get inflamed. They get swollen, they're under strain, okay? That inflammation is going to start to put pressure on that nerve. Now, your body's smart, so it responds accordingly, and the muscles spasm. They try and protect it. We've all been there. You just all of a sudden can't turn your head or you can't move your low back. It's gone into lockdown. It's extremely painful, but it's a protective mechanism. It's to stop you from putting more pressure on that nerve. That loss of movement, though, means that our discs stop pumping, which is called imbibition. It's called lost imbibition. So remember, and this is why we have you wobble on those discs before you get adjusted. It's to hydrate those discs, because we know if they've been stuck, they're dehydrating, and that becomes a long-term problem. Leads to joint fixation back here. Now, the real problem with joint fixation is that so that is loss of movement, is you then lose your proprioception. So if you come to our practice, you'll know we trigger your proprioception by getting you on that balance ball right after you've been adjusted. That charges your brain, charges your nervous system. That recalibrates the small muscles in your spine and settles things down, reinforces adjustment. But that proprioception also takes you out of that fight-flight mode. It decreases that cortisol level, decreases those stress hormones. So if we lose that, if we lose those small movements in the spine, that becomes fixated, those stress hormones go up. Ties into inability to sleep. We've got a sore neck, got a sore low back, and we can't sleep. It's not just because of the pain, it's because that cortisol level's elevated and it's mucking up our circadian rhythm. It's mucking up our ability to really get into that restful sleep. And again, cortisol, so this is what it does. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It reduces the production of melatonin, which means that it's harder to get to sleep. We stay stimulated. Our blood pressure goes up. Down regulates our insulin sensitivity. Over a long course of time, it will weaken our connective tissue, increases inflammation and swelling. Now, all of these things, by the way, are really healthy in the short term if a tiger's chasing you. You want all of these things. But if it's long term, it's going to impact you. It's going to impact your ability to sleep. It's going to impact health in general. So let's talk about thoracic outlets, Joe. Now, this is typically the nerves that come from our mid to upper thoracic. So we're talking T5 to T9. This area should actually be a little bit higher, but also C7 down to T1, T5. Those nerves come out. They go to, apart from other things, heart, lungs, etc. They also run down your arms, controlling sensation and controlling muscular movement. So when someone comes in and they're telling me, look, I'm waking up, my arms are going numb, it's waking me multiple times a night, I don't know what to do, we've got to reverse engineer it. Number one, we want to look for a subluxation. Is there pressure on that nerve coming from the spine? 9 times out of 10 there is. And again, it's from posture. So we went through the ones with mums. The rest of us aren't immune from it. You know, we get stuck at a computer all day, so our posture is shocking. We get these humps here. We look at kids who are looking down at phones like this. Same thing. It's putting a tremendous amount of stress on that area of the spine. So we know that, all right, that's a weaker area of the spine, probably going to be affecting the nerves. What are you doing with your sleep posture? And when we're not getting the sleep posture right, and it could literally just be the matter of removing one pillow when we're laying on our back, or just getting a little bit towel under our pillow to get it just high enough when we're laying on our side, can make all the difference. Or cuddling a pillow to keep our arms out of the way so we're not sleeping on them, make all the difference when it comes to thoracic outlet syndrome. But we've got to look at the whole picture, because even though those sleep postures are aggravating factors, and the lifestyle factor, looking down all the time, is the main factor, unless we also address that nerve pressure, the problem still remains. And this is what we want to do. Is we want to make sure that if it is there, that we're adjusting it. And not just for the pain, but so we're taking it out of that stress cycle as well. Restless leg syndrome. Now, you've got two types of nerve fibers. You've got slow twitch and you've got fast twitch. Your fast twitch fiber is where you get sensation. Your slow twitch fiber is where you get muscular contraction. So basically what I'm telling you then is restless leg is a form of sciatica. It's just different fibers that are getting irritated. So if you've had sciatica before, you will know what it is. If you haven't, it's when you get shooting pain down your leg. All right, so it's hitting those slow twitch fibers. If you're the sort of person that you go to bed and your leg starts, you have to shake it constantly. You've got your slow twitch fibers that are getting affected, which is what's causing that sensation. Same concept. We need to get the bone off the nerve. So typically when we're looking at subluxation patterns here, it's between L4 and S1, which is the very base of our spine. Now, interestingly, if you find that you've got to get up through the night to pee a lot and you're getting restless legs, it's probably related. It's probably coming from these nerves. You'll see these nerves go to the bladder, bowel, etc. Now, again, posture will make a big difference. If you lay on your back, put some pillows under your knees, or if you're laying on your side with a pillow supporting that top knee so you're not rotating through the hips, that will help. But ultimately, we've got to make sure that there's the right function as well on those nerves as they come out. It's pretty critical. And this is what we do, right? So, guys, we talk about subluxation, and you'll know one of the things that we do that really is different. I actually don't know of too many other practices that do this, and I'm super proud of it, is the before and after results. And I want to give you an example here of this lady that came in. She was getting pins and needles in her fingers. She was losing the ability to write or losing the fine motor control. And so what we did with her, is we took an x-ray and we got nerve scans. But what you can see from this x-ray, you might have to look closely. This is a neck from side on. That's her jaw. That's the back of her skull. You can see that red line traces what her neck was doing. The blue line traces what it should be doing. So she should get a curve where her neck was super flat and actually reversing. And if you look really closely, you'll see the discs at the top here, nice and healthy. The discs down here, very thin. Now your discs act like a spacer, right? It separates your bones for that nerve to come out. They should all be the same size. So if those discs are thinning, it's narrowing around where that nerve comes out. It's going to cause nerve irritation. That nerve runs down the arm. She's going to start to get pins and needles down the arm. It's pretty mechanical. By the way, people tell me this is age, but those discs there, those healthy ones, same age as those unhealthy ones. It's a matter of it's just been going on for so long and those discs are wearing out. So did some work with her over the course of, in her case, 3 months of that initial intensive care before we took her next x-ray, and you can see how that's returning. So it is possible to make these changes in the spine, and we get fantastic results with this kind of thing. But it's a matter of, she was very diligent. She did her exercises. She broke the bad habits. She kept her adjustment rhythm. And that's what it's all about. But it can be done. And yeah, this is really the crux of it. So 3 steps. If you've got any of these symptoms, if you're struggling to sleep, if you're waking up with pins and needles in the arms, you're getting restless leg syndrome, number one thing is, the 3 top things we've got to do to fix it is, number one, we have to break the bad habits. We have to break the lifestyle factors. This is coming back to sleep best practices, avoiding caffeine, avoiding alcohol, making sure we're getting the right amount of sleep. By the way, we do have a cheat sheet on this, which I will send every single one of you on the back end of this. It's got a list of things to do and to stop doing. So breaking the bad habits. If your children or if you're watching electronic devices before going to bed, please get those blue glasses that filter out the blue light. They will make a massive difference. Look at your culture. Have a nice dark room, quiet, comfortable. Just, yeah, it's common sense. Make sure that if you do have a subluxation or if you do have nerve pressure there, you're doing the appropriate exercises to fix it. You can also think about this as having the right sleep posture, making sure you've got the right pillow, the right mattress. You're not aggravating the problem. Because guys, if any one of those things is off, your pillow's off, if your mattress is off, if your posture is off, doesn't matter how many habits you break or how many adjustments you get, you're scratching the scab and it's just going to keep happening. We have to make those changes if we're going to get a change in our outcome. And then if we are subluxated, you have to get adjusted. Chiropractic adjustments are the only thing that's going to correct a subluxation. And lastly, oh, by the way, how do you know if you've got a subluxation? You test. So we do, as you know, we do x-rays, we do nerve scans, we do postural analysis, we put you on weight scales to see how much weight's going through one leg versus the other. We do the lot. And we get all that all that information up front. We find out what's relevant and what's not relevant. We keep the relevant stuff. And then after we work with you, we retest it. So we can see that you're actually getting better, not just feeling better. We can measure it. It's crucial. Everyone should do that. All right. Guys, also, if we go through this talk, one of the things that everyone asks me is what about my wife? What about my husband? What about John down the road who's been complaining about this and that? Because a lot of what we go through triggers those questions. Let us know. We can take care of them. We can do the entire initial consult for $49 as opposed to $216. That includes the scans, the x-rays, the whole lot. All they've got to do is contact us, let us know that you've come from this webinar, and we'll be able to take care of the rest. All right, so we're going to wrap it up with the questions and answers. So what I can do here, and I want to thank you again for your attention. I truly hope this was worth your time invested tonight. And like I said, I'll make sure I send you that cheat sheet. It's about 3 or 4 pages. It's got how much time you should be sleeping based on your age. It's got a cheat sheet on your pillow, cheat sheet on your mattress, different habits around nutrition, about mental health, as well as about physical health to help you get to sleep. It's all there. So we'll make sure you get that and hopefully you can apply it. And if you do apply it and you get great results, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Also, if you do get great results, give us a great Google review. You never know what you write, how far-reaching it can be. And so many people these days read them things and they make their decisions as to who they're going to go and what they're going to do based on those reviews. We get tons of them and we love them and we appreciate you for them. So please, if you get great results, make sure you whack them up. So we've got a bunch of questions in here. We're sleeping flat. So I'll go through these questions and then also, if you have any questions, type them in and I'll go through and answer these. And if there's any brave people out there, you can also raise your hand. I can unmute you and we can have a conversation. So Lisa said, will reducing flat reduce numbness and tingling in hands for some reason with peripheral neuropathy due to having Parkinson's disease? Lisa, now this is not a scientific answer because I don't know what the research says, but from what I do know, chances are it's not going to help, no. Because the problem with peripheral neuropathy is it's not stemming, peripheral meaning the periphery. So nerves, there's damaged nerves in the actual arm or hands or in the limbs. It's not actually stemming from the neck or the spine. So it's not about getting your spine in the right posture, unfortunately. So no. I have 4 different types of pillows on my bed and I use every one depending on what I need to sleep. I find it hard to stay with one. Yeah. I guess I'm guessing it depends on what's hurting at the time. What about the long pillows? Yeah, Kerry. Long pillows are great to cuddle, right? What's great about them is you can cuddle them with your arms, they get out of the way, but then you can also put your knee up on top of one. Fantastic. Could I get the mattress? Yes, no worries, Gav. We'll get that across to you. Video URLs, no worries, Kelly. And so in fact, guys, I'll send that to everybody. We'll send you one email. It'll have the links to the videos. It'll have this recording, and we'll even put the cheat sheet in there. That way you've got it all in one place. That should hopefully make that easy. Now, I'm not sure if anyone's got any other questions coming through. It doesn't look like it. And no hands are getting raised. Oh, yes, we've got two. Let's have a look. All right, Elaine, if you unmute your microphone, we should all hear you. Or maybe you just were raising it at the start because I told you to, unless you got a question. Nope. All right. Kerry Harriman, if you wanted to talk. Hey, Kerry.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you. This is really, really interesting. I appreciate it. I suffer with fibromyalgia, and I've had it for over 20 years. And for those 20 years, I reckon I probably average 4 or 5 hours sleep. Sometimes I can go 48 hours without sleep, because of the way when I'm sleeping, I can't stay in one position for too long. What do you suggest for that?
That's a tough question. So really, what you're saying is,
I know.
what you're saying is, how do you get more sleep, basically, comfortably?
Yeah. So I know you've mentioned about the pillows and the mattress.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got your bad habits and things like that. But I find if I'm laying there for too long, then I end up being wide awake and I've got to come back downstairs and do something. I can't just lay in bed.
It's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
Are you I might get a little bit too personal here, so if it does, just let me know.
That's okay. I'm an open book.
Are you taking many medications?
No, I'm quite different to a lot of people that do have fibromyalgia, because I'm still pretty active. I still work. The only medications I take are like Panadol and Nurofen if and when I need it. And that isn't like every single day. I don't take any other type of medication. I only do that when I end up in hospital, which is, sometimes, well, it used to be every sort of 8 months to 12 months. I've been pushing that out to nearly every 2 years now between my relapses. So I'm trying to keep, heading in the right direction, but I know that the sleep is a big factor because I keep hearing, if you're deprived in sleep, obviously it can trigger your pain and things as well. So.
Are you seeing one of our chiros at the moment?
Yep.
Who are you seeing?
Josh.
Josh.
In Albury.
Paul. Is it?
No, Josh Harvey in Albury.
Oh, okay. No, he's not one of our guys. I was going to say I can talk. Have you spoken to Josh and sort of discussed it with him?
Yeah. I've had a full month of intensive manipulation. Like I was going like twice a week. And then I went to one day a week, and now I'm back to 2 days a week. So.
Sorry, what I meant was, have you spoken to him about the sleeping in terms of different strategies? Has that come up?
Well, we're hoping with all the stuff that he's doing that it's trying to help, like it's helping me with my sleeping. And some days I'm doing okay, but then other days not so much. So.
Okay, and so you've been doing that for what, 2 months now? Is that what you said?
This is week 6 or 7.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's it. And you're seeing that you're getting intermittent changes with your sleep patterns now. So it's not consistent, but there's some nights where you're sleeping a bit better. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then it sounds like you're on the right track there, because essentially what he's doing is stimulating your nervous system, but in the right way. So it's going to be calming that down. So there'll be a few things happening there, because obviously, hopefully he's reducing some of the pains, but But if he's also freeing up those joints, he's going to be getting better proprioception, which is going to help take you out of that stress response, which is then going to mean that you get better melatonin secretion. Basically, you're able to regulate your sleep better. But if you've had that trouble for 20 years and you've been in this for 6 weeks and you're seeing changes, I would take that as very promising.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I am, and like I've told him, I'm not like a textbook. I am quite different, which he's found out.
Yeah.
And I said to him, like, I don't expect miracles overnight, because I have had it for 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
From the sound, like, I know by the sound of it, there's a complex history here, but it does sound like you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, Kerry.
That's all right.
Now, we've got a few more questions that look like they've come through. Okay. Tony, absolutely, man. We'll get that sent to you. In the email, you'll have this entire thing. So I've got one from Elaine. Having torn rotator cuff, surgery in 3 weeks, very painful at night, trouble sleeping. All right, so this is the sort of thing, when you've got painful injuries like that, there's best practices and then there's reality. And like, if you've got a torn rotator cuff, obviously you want to try and get in a position where you can alleviate that as much as possible. Unfortunately though, and it sounds like this may be the case, that is, whatever position you get in, you're just not going to get comfortable. It's going to hurt and it's going to wake you up. Unfortunately, and I'm really not one to say this lightly, but a lot of the time when it comes to torn rotator cuffs, particularly when they're complete, surgery is one of the only options. So what I would suggest though, if you've got that coming up in 3 weeks, start your rehab now if you haven't already. Make sure you're doing the right exercises. Make sure you're at least getting adjusted through there to keep it mobile, so that when you do come on the other side of the surgery, it's not starting that rehab from scratch. The recovery will be faster if you start now. We've got Tony. I go to bed at 9:30. I seem to wake up at 3:30. I have back pain and roll from side to side a fair bit. Yeah, great question, Tony. So a couple of things there. If we go back to the basics, obviously make sure that your mattress is right. Now, well, I didn't mention this, but if you look at your mattress and there's a divot in there, that's called a sleep signature, right? So that's that little bit of, like, you can tell someone sleeps there, so there's like some stretch fabric. If there's an actual divot there though, where that mattress is lower, or if you lay on that mattress and you tend to roll to the middle or to the side or something, you need a new mattress, okay? That's absolutely the first thing you got to do. So Tony, if that's you, replace the mattress first and foremost. Second thing is make sure that if you are laying there, whether if you're on your back, bend your knees. If you're on your side, obviously support that knee to stop you from rotating. Finally though, if that's still going on, and if you're not getting adjusted, get adjusted. Make sure someone's checking that and actually getting it right. If you are getting adjusted, make sure that your chiro is aware of it. If you need to change an exercise, if they need to change the way they're adjusting it, there has to be a reason that that's happening though, that the pain is there. Okay, so, and if there's a reason, there's usually a solution. So make sure you talk to them about it so they can actually get that correct, but start with those basics. Hey, Sally, I'm lying on my side, your shoulder hurts. It's a common one, guys. Best thing I can tell you, Sal, try and color that blanket, but also really make sure that your head's not tipping toward the mattress, in which case your pillow's too low or away from. What I find is a lot of people, when they go to sleep, if their pillow's too low, they tend to tuck up like that. I don't know if you can see me, but tuck up with your head on your shoulder, which will aggravate the shoulder as well. Otherwise, if you've got your posture right, if the pillow's right, if your mattress is right, then it's going to be a matter of fixing the shoulder, which could be exercises, again, it could be getting adjusted, I'm pretty sure you're already getting all that sorted anyway, Sal, but if you haven't mentioned it, make sure you mention it to the chiro next time you're in. And if it's still going on, getting adjusted, you're doing the exercises, you've got your pillow, everything's right, send me an email. I'll reach out and we'll work it out together. Hey, Jackie, thanks for being on. Any suggestions for a couple more hours of sleep? Hey, Tony. Yeah, so guys, this is the thing. So it's a great question. How do you get more sleep? It's about looking at all of these things and looking at what are the things that we need to change. Now, I think the best way to approach something like this when there's multiple things potentially is attack the low-hanging fruit first, meaning what's the thing that you can change the most easily that's potentially going to have the biggest impact. Don't change everything at once, just one thing at a time. Just get your pillow right, get your mattress right, look at changing your posture, but just do one thing at a time so you can actually see the impact that it's having rather than try and do everything. Because if you do everything, you're changing too many habits, particularly when it comes to getting to sleep. That can make it hard. If you're having trouble sleeping more hours and it's not a matter of, if it's not the pain, then absolutely look at how much light are you getting before you go to bed, what are you eating, what are you drinking. Those are big factors. And then Lisa, we've got the pillows that we use to stimulate the blood flow in the spine before an adjustment. Are they something we should be using at home on a regular basis? Great. Yes, they are. So you're talking about those wobble discs that we sit on and hydrate the spine. So guys, if you're a chiropractic patient in our office, you'll know you walk in, you've got these wobble discs, these blown up cushions sitting on the chairs. Now, please use them. Sometimes I walk through a practice where people aren't sitting on them and you're totally missing out. So if you do it, what you'll find is you're actually going to create imbibition, hydrates your disc. It also gets more movement in there, which, by the way, improves your proprioception, which takes you out of that stress response and everything's healthier and your adjustment goes better. It primes you. So if you're sitting consistently, so if you've got an office job, if you spend a lot of time sitting at the sewing machine, you name it, you're spending a lot of time sitting, absolutely sit on a wobble disc because it's going to hydrate that disc. It's one of the best things you can do to increase the longevity of your spine. They're really good. Brian, I wear a Fitbit and my sleep versus deep sleep patterns are terrible. For example, last week, my average sleep was 7 hours, 36 minutes. Light sleep was 5 hours. Deep sleep was 2 hours. Can this be reversed somehow? Yeah, absolutely. So what we're looking at here, if we're struggling to get into that deep sleep, what that's telling me is there's a few things. Either the mind is racing, too many thoughts. By the way, if that's you, keep a notepad next to your bed. And when the mind is racing, just write it down. That will get it out of your head so you don't feel like you've just got to keep looping it. Your brain doesn't just keep looping through the night. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So if you're not getting into that deep sleep, what that suggests is that the melatonin is not high enough. So we've got to look at, okay, what's inhibiting it? What's stopping the melatonin from getting up? Now, again, coming back to the basics, light. If we've got too much light too close to bed, or if our room's not dark enough, that's going to inhibit that SCN nucleus from turning off, which means it's going to inhibit the amount of melatonin we produce in a struggle to get into that deep sleep. That's number one. Then we want to look at what's the comfort like. So again, dark room, comfortable, the temperature, stimulants before bed, coffee, alcohol, sugars, how soon we're heading to bed. Like ideally, don't eat anything for a good 3 hours at least before you go to bed. So that's one. Making sure we're not drinking too much water even before we go to bed. So a good 3 hours before we finish up. I guess I'm rattling off all these things, but these are all the things that we need to look at and get it right, which if they're off for you, that will make a difference. Brian, if you're listening to this and thinking, no, that's not me, I do all of that, or if there's something else, feel free to send me an email. Absolutely happy to give you a call and we can work through it. Okay, I sleep on my belly, back and side. I can't stay in one position. Any ideas? Yeah, man. Struggle is real. So problem with laying on your tummy, I don't know if I was explicit, but your head's turned like that. So you're rotating your head. And you can imagine if you had to stand at a wall with your head turned for like 8 hours, your neck's going to get sore. So if you're doing that in bed, that's not helping. Now, I've heard some people recommend things like sticking taping a ping pong ball to your chest or something like that. So you're rolling it, you're not comfortable. I really can't see how that would work, but maybe. I really think what's best is pillows. Get that long pillow or multiple pillows, wrap your arms around and bend your knees over it. Staying in the one position is not necessarily what you need to do, as long as you're not rolling on your tummy. If you're rolling from the back to the side, etc., and you're staying asleep, it's no biggie. Having said that, though, if you're rolling and changing positions all the time because you're in pain, that's another issue as well. And I guess that's the thing, guys. Like all of these things we're talking about, I guess there's so many variations and possibilities, and that's where having that understanding of sort of that high-level sleep physiology, best practices for sleep, best practices for posture, helps you troubleshoot it so you can work out what it is for you. And if you do need help, if you're in pain, you can obviously that's something we can help with. But if it's these other things, then you can take care of that yourself. Kerry, you can buy those. We saw those Wobble Discs in the practice. People just started asking for them, so we started selling them. Are weighted blankets any good? I actually have no idea. I've never heard of them. Sorry, I've got no idea about a weighted blanket. I'd be guessing if I started talking. All right. Awesome, guys. Well, I think that's all the questions that have come through. If there's any more, just type them in or raise your hand. All right, so guys, just while we're wrapping up, I'll just wait for any last questions to come through. Like I said, I'll make sure everybody on this call gets a copy of this recording. We'll send you the cheat sheet. We'll send you the links to the videos we did on how to pick a pillow, how to pick a mattress. So you'll get that anyway. If you do want to take us up on our new patient offer, or if you haven't been in for some time, or if you've got some of these pains that the questions have come through, but you're not seeing us, let me know. We'll organise an appointment for you. It'll be $49, which will give you everything, the x-rays, the scans, the whole lot, whatever you need, and we'll put together a game plan. Another question comes through. Thank you. All good, Brendan. Guys, thank you so much for your attention. Like I said, the fact that you've spent the last hour and 10 minutes with me, no worries, Keith. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night speaks volumes, and I take it seriously. So thank you so much. And any other questions, shoot me an email, guys. I'll be happy to work through it with you. Have a great night.